So now, speaking of traumas, we're talking about our bonded trauma,
Our trauma bond.
our immigrant bonded trauma, because like we're saying, like people think being an immigrant is such a blessing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really non-immigrants who think that. No, nothing against it's not an immigrant versus non-immigrant situation. But I'm saying like when you tell somebody that you're from a different country, they tend to go, "Oh, it must be such a blessing," or "You must be so happy to be."
In
First
America.
of all, I'm like, I left my home. You know, I feel like nobody really. If you leave home, there's a reason you left home.
Yeah.
Because if home was good, or if home was not like home safe, because I don't want to say good, because I look forward to going back to Sierra Leone all the time. But if home was safe, or if home was where you could be at the time, you would be at home.
Yeah.
Or if home was where
And
your family could thrive, you would be at home.
And I guess all of us, all three of us actually, even though we come from different, you come from a different continent, all of us
Speaking
are
of
here.
which, where does everybody come from?
I'm from
Oh, you don't know me already.
Sierra
Leone, but I was born in Sierra Leone, right? Rahua is first generation.
I'm first gen, so my family immigrated from Eritrea. Well, not directly from Eritrea, but they came originally from Eritrea 3 months before I was born, and they immigrated to the Bronx in September, and then I was born that January in the midst of like a horrible snowstorm. So they're coming from like the desert in Africa. My mother is pregnant with me, and then delivers me in the midst of like a very heavy snowstorm.
At home?
No. She made it, but she took like the train and like in the Bronx.
Yeah, because they didn't. How else were they gonna get around?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and my father stayed home with my older sister. So she went and delivered.
You're the middle child.
I'm the middle child.
That's
and
why
she didn't
she's
even,
so awesome.
Exactly. I have middle child syndrome.
So then, Rahua, you're Eritrean by way of born in America.
Born in
parents from-
America, yes.
Yeah.
Raised in an immigrant community in New York City.
Okay.
So I was 6. So, but we were all like, mostly of us were Eritreans, some Puerto Ricans and other things, but mostly it was Eritreans in the building. That all the refugees, as they'd come, we'd all be pulled into this one building.
Oh wow.
And so I didn't really speak much English until I went to elementary school. And yeah, so it was I'm first gen, but in some ways, like I still kind of grew up like around my
because your parents were
in a community of like Eritreans.
And technically, your mom came here with you in the belly, so
technically, yes, I was almost born in Sudan.
almost. I know.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So that's where your parents moved with it was war
During the
too,
war,
right?
my parents were soldiers in the war for
wow.
independence from Ethiopia.
Wow.
They spent most of their young adulthood in the war for many years.
And that's how they met too.
That's how they met. They met during the war, and then they ended up going to Sudan
Oh wow.
during the war,
Oh wow.
and then from Sudan they immigrated to the U.S.
I feel like y'all are total women's women. Like, you know how like you're a girl, like some people are just like, because it's 3 girls and y'all is 4 girls.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Totally like just,
Yeah, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's how we got along too.
I think
It was
so.
like, oh, I just
We're
found
both
my-
Yeah, I know how to.
And we're middle sisters. We're
Yeah.
both middle sisters
Right.
of girls.
Yes. And then Anna, your family's from.
Bolivia, from
Okay.
South America, yeah.
So you.
I grew up there.
Okay.
I grew up there until I was 10. Then my whole family moved here. My mom was pregnant with my little sister, so she moved here. And it was-
Pregnant mommies.
Yeah, so it was the 3
Can
of
you
us.
imagine?
I know. Speaking of postpartum, like that would have been not ideal. It's not ideal, but I'm saying, imagine that situation: relocating to a whole different country
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
you're pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know she was pregnant.
Wow.
Our family didn't know she was pregnant, so she kind of didn't want to tell anybody in her family because it was going to be hard and they're going to
Yeah.
discourage them
From
I guess, from
coming
coming.
at that time.
So then they came with my parents, both of my parents. We came, it was 3 of us, my mom was pregnant, and we moved here to the area. First to Maryland, but there wasn't enough, like, I guess, looking back, I guess, support system there. I think we had some family, but there wasn't a lot of, like a Latino community. It was more like a Bolivian community that you had to find jobs and things like that I think people look for. Here it was in Virginia, so then we ended up moving here to Virginia.
So speaking of immigrant, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I think what I was trying to say about all of us being from like immigrants is that, for people saying like, oh, you're so lucky to be here and like what a great opportunity. It's like, no, we're actually all the result of post-colonial system, right? Because our countries were colonized at some point, or there was war that was created in our countries that was from an outside source bringing it in, mostly from the West. That is what created these situations that then forced us to come to the West to seek refuge.
So that's how it was in Eritrea.
Yeah,
Right?
how was it?
Because ours was local. Ours was like dumbass people.
But
like,
what was it rooted in?
Diamonds. Like they.
Okay, and who?
Oh, okay. I
Let's
see
go
where
all
you're
the way
going.
back.
I see where you're going.
Yes.
Grandma's going all the way. But yeah, I see
The
what you're
root
saying.
causes,
Yes,
the
yeah,
root causes of it, and the
causes.
same with you. You know.
Did y'all have
Just-
war? Did you, what? Like what would?
It wasn't necessarily war. It was just like an economic like
Yeah.
crash.
She's about to
Just
go there.
un-
Go there, Rafa.
unstable.
Figure out.
Let's
No,
go
but-
deeper.
no, but it is by the fact that it's not a stable government because of so many like dictatorships. Just Latin America is just filled with that, but it does come from.
But then I know you're about to go deep
Yeah,
and
no,
figure out where.
It's
Yeah, but
true.
you're right though.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so when people are, when Americans will be like, oh, you're so lucky to like, and I do feel fortunate, you know, of course, you know, but at the same time, it's like, well, I wonder what my country would have been like had that stuff not happened, and I wonder what kind of life I would be living in my own country, maybe because I feel like I'm, you know, like I like to be near the earth.
Okay,
I
let me
like
ask
to be
you.
on the farm.
Would you have preferred being? Oh, you know, now okay, now we're here, right? Now in hindsight, when you see where you.
Yeah.
Now you see where your parents, like the stories they told you, because have you visited?
Oh,
Eritrea?
yes.
You have?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. To go back to.
So that's my question. Would you have
Eritrea,
wanted
or, like-
to
Yeah.
like grow up there and get raised there? Would you have preferred that versus being here?
Not necessarily. Not in its current. Like
Yeah.
obviously, like I feel fortunate to be here
Yeah,
currently,
yeah.
right? But you know, it's hard to predict what it would have been like if there weren't a 30-year war
Okay, I
for
get what you're
independence
saying.
and
I
like
get what
you know. 'Cause
So like y'all, okay, so for ours, like obviously, if you go way back, that's the reason. But I'm saying like at the time, ours was a civil war, so it wasn't like
ours was a civil war too.
yeah, but it was ours wasn't. Well, let me tell you how ours was.
Okay.
It was like people wanted diamonds, and it really originated from diamonds. But like they wanted to have control of the diamond mines, and it was local. Obviously, they were
But
selling the diamonds.
Who had the diamond? Who had control of the diamond mines before? Like before.
Just the government. So individuals wanted control of it now. So the individual groups that formed, because they were like, well, the government has control of it, but they're like the people aren't seeing it. Like us, the people, corruption. Back to corruption. It's like okay, the government has control of the diamond mines, but us, the natives, or us, the citizens, don't get any benefits from it. So now we gotta form a coalition to like get control of the diamond mines. So you know, obviously they're selling the diamonds to foreigners, to like you know foreign whatever citizens and blah blah blah. So then that's how it started forming like a coalition, that they formed like a rebel group. So the rebels started like taking over like the diamond mines. That's how it started, the diamond mines. And then it started like, well, now the rebels want to take over the whole country, you know. So wherever there could be resources, but really it started off like trying to take over the diamond mines.
Gotcha.
So it was like so for us in our country, we always say like. And I said dumbass because I'm like, dang, your own country. So it was like our people, like killing our own people.
But I mean,
to,
technically, that's what ours was too. If you think about it, it's like your own people. You're killing. You're
but
fighting
then
your
what
own
was
people.
the reason for it? Yours was like
Colonialism,
yeah.
right? Because so when the Italians came to our region, they did not colonize Ethiopia because basically Eritrea was the area that they wanted the ocean is what they wanted. They wanted the Red Sea. And Eritrea
Because
is
of like
along the
bringing boats and something. Cause
yeah,
it's always a
for-
financial.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was literally just for it to be able to import and export, and also for the resources that the ocean brings,
Okay,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a lot of money too.
Yeah. So that's really what they wanted. And then once World War, and I won't go into the whole details of it, but
Sure.
during World War II,
I mean,
Italy
you
had
can if
to.
you want. Just let me know. Call me and we'll set up.
Italy had to bounce because World War II was going down and in Europe, and it was starting to come.
So
into
this
Italy.
is that far ago?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
And so then they left. Italy left and left us back, and it left us back in under the control of Ethiopia. Now, before they came and before colonialism, we lived in empires and kingdoms
Yeah.
for centuries.
It's the regal life for
centuries.
me, because I'm like, people don't even realize that like people were literally living the life.
Yeah, and even if they weren't,
You
even if
know?
they lived a
Yeah.
simple life,
But it was on their terms.
It was on their terms.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to like, you know, part of me says, yeah, I feel grateful to be here. I mean, we wouldn't have had the educational opportunities that we
true.
have.
Yeah.
You know, things would have possibly played out different. So I'm grateful for where I'm at, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm like, hold it, you know, like.
But speaking of what you said, I did say that though, Anna, right? In like a more lit, you know, because I was like, I feel like I hear a lot of this from even people who are Sierra Leonean, because I obviously, like, I'll talk to my cousins, the people who were here, like maybe younger, were born here, but because your parents are immigrants, so you kind of are raised like with so much of that culture that it's hard to you don't go like, oh, I'm American right away. You go like, oh, I'm Sierra Leonean, or I'm Nigerian, or I'm Ghanaian, or Ethiopian, or Eritrean, or Bolivian, or Colombian, whatever. You go initially with what your parents are, because you grow up, even if you're born here, it's like you hear, like even the baby, his dad is American, but he's gonna hear, I swear he thinks he's African, because I'm the mom and I'm the one raising him. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, but then until you get older and you kind of start trying to assimilate both cultures, it's like, okay, my parents are, so by that I am, but I was born here, so also by birth I am.
Yes.
But I feel like kids who went to school, like said they got bullied, they got called Africa booty scratcher, or they were like, you came over here, like, you know, they got made fun of, and they'll take
or
like,
going to school smelling like onions.
Oh yeah,
like, I went to school. I smelled like onions all the time, you know? It's like, oh my God, who is that? What's that smell? It smells like armpits.
And look how lit you look. But so I told Anna, I said, all the people who like were made fun of for like being like immigrant children, or like being immigrants, like, oh, you brought lentils to school, or you brought injera to school, or you brought, like, now everybody's on the train of,
True.
Oh my gosh, I eat Ethiopian, like I only eat Ethiopian food. I go to this Eritrean restaurant, like, oh my gosh, the Bolivian food is the best. You know, all of a sudden now everybody's all like, you know, oh, Afro beats is the mix, and I'm kind of like, from what I heard, I used to make fun of people who were, you know, it's all love anyway. But
it's
I'm
true.
saying,
It's
like,
the dynamic
literally,
has changed.
yeah, so
the culture is shifting.
Right, and I try to tell, like, you know, with my son and stuff, because I try to get him the teenager. I'm like, embrace your culture, because this boy swears when he wears African clothes, his body itches. It's not true. But it's not
like
true.
He's allergic to it.
And I don't think he wants me talking about him on my podcast like that, because he's all like, man, you know, you can't just be posting everything about me on your social media. And I'm like, and you don't get out of here. But like, you know, I'm just like, embrace it, because like, I know now I know, like, I love being where I'm from. Like, I love it. I love America, obviously, you know, but I also love having
time to embrace
yes,
that, right?
I love.
I think when you're like a teenager, you're like, you want to fit in, you know, you
that's
want
what
to
it
be part
is.
of a group,
Yeah.
you want to like belong,
And it's so soft spoken. I feel like when we talk, we're like, ah, but the thing has like a meter that monitors like the volume. When me and you talk, it's like up, and then when Anna starts talking, it just goes slowly.
That's also probably cultural, you know what I mean?
It could be. Is that cultural for you? Like, are y'all more
yeah,
soft?
Bolivians are more like yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
It
sweet.
depends. It depends. Like I have Puerto Rican family, and like they're like louder, and like you know, it just depends.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I was like, it's more like now I'm like, oh God, like I just love it. I just love the diversity, like the cultural diversity. Because the world, they say the world is like a salad bowl. You can't just be like, oh, this is all that is to the world. So speaking of that, there are traumas, there are great things. I'm gonna let y'all take the floor on this one, because me, I feel like I have more time to talk about my stuff. But like just being from an immigrant family, and like from the perspective of just in like a educational way. Do you get what I'm saying? The things that are awesome, the things that are like if somebody was like a parent with like who just came here with their kids, what could they do different to make their kids experience better? Because I feel like sometimes our parents too could have done some things different.
We can talk about what we said, or we were talking about earlier, which is the physical part of like disciplining children. You know? That is like something that's like very standard in other countries, is to like beat your children. Like that's like not spanking, but like truly like beating your children.
Because it's discipline and because you love them.
Physical discipline.
Yeah.
That would be the number one thing. It is so degrading to hit a person, another human being.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really demoralizing, and it really, you know, affects their self-esteem when you hit a child, and it confuses them about what love is, right? So I would say that's like the number one thing. If I could say, whenever I talk to a mom or a dad who's coming from a different country or a different culture, even if they've been here for some time, it's about, remember how we were saying, when you know better, then you do better, right? And our parents did the best they could with what they knew and what they had.
I want to play the Rihanna song and get teary-eyed.
Never ending?
Is that, the Rihanna song and teary-eyed, but like, because I'm like, oh, maybe it's the mimosa, but like the way you're saying it, I'm just like, oh, that is so true.
It is
Go
true.
ahead.
It is true.
interrupt.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's true. So one thing that I left, because when I became a mother, I had to decide which parts of the culture am I gonna keep and which parts of the culture am I gonna let go.
Toss.
Yes.
Yep.
You're a cycle breaker. So
I'm a
you're
cycle
breaking-
breaker.
Cycle
you're breaking
breaker,
in a cycle
yes.
that might be normal
Yeah.
within your culture.
Yeah.
But then you decide like it ends here.
Yeah,
You're not gonna
that's
continue
true.
it here, so
Exactly.
you're
And then
changing
the things you
cycle.
take with you. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then my children, I'm definitely gonna mess up and not do everything,
And then
just
they're
right.
gonna be doing this, talking about this, and saying,
I'm sure.
"My mom could," and that is fine because at the end of the day, we all live and learn, right? Like, there's no, doesn't mean you love your parents any less. It doesn't mean your parents did not do a good job. But I'm sure, like, as a mom, I'm like, because I love my kids so much, if there's something I could work on, please tell me because I want us to
Absolutely.
have the best relationship possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my children have no problem telling me.
Oh yeah.
Just this week, my daughter, I did something that upset her, and she was like, Mommy, I forgive you.
Oh.
It's not okay, and I'm still upset,
Oh.
but I forgive you.
Oh.
Yeah. And sometimes she'll slip and be like, oh, it's okay, and she's like, wait, no, it's not okay,
Oh.
but I do forgive
Oh
you.
no! Like just now, I think we were talking about something. I was like, it helped us not deal with the trauma. No, it was traumatizing.
Yes.
But we figured it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
like, I'm
also,
not giving you a pass, but I forgive you.
I forgive you, but it's not okay, and
Yeah.
don't do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is beautiful because I would
And
never
then,
say something like
I
that.
bet when she says that, you're just like, oh, thank you. Because it's
Yes.
like healing the little girl in you.
100%.
I've heard mom of girls say that. Because I swear I was having a daughter when I had the boy, right? I had a girl name and everything. The name was Lubanya, the African name. It means blessed woman. And then it ended up being I swore, like I had everybody convinced it was a girl. Because I'm about to heal. Whatever trauma I have, this is the child I'm going to.
God gives you exactly what you're
Yeah.
supposed to have, though, in
True,
order to
True.
just
And then he gave me a postpartum experience, and now I'm like,
maybe
ooh.
it was the male hormones postpartum that,
Listen.
like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? It was
Yeah.
what needed to happen in order.
But like
for
with
you
your
to,
daughter, you're healing like
I prayed
so
for a
much
girl.
of that.
I prayed for a girl because I had such a contentious relationship with my own mother
Yeah.
that I really hoped that like I could have a daughter and almost like redo it, and like do it like a different way.
Yeah.
And I dreamt of it since I was little. I used to always pray like, oh my God, when I have children, I'm gonna be like this, I'm gonna be like that, and
Yeah.
I'm living it now. I don't always get it right.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm
Nobody
living it.
does. Like we're all human.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not about getting it right. It's about if you know you didn't get it right, how can you fix it?
Yes.
I think that's really what
And
it is
admitting
about.
that you
Yeah.
got it wrong.
Like
Because that's
getting
huge.
better.
Getting better.
Getting better.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Right.
there's so not to be all like woo woo, but like there's this like quote that I love.
Uh-huh.
It's a Brene Brown quote,
Okay.
and it's I'm a recovering perfectionist and an aspiring good enoughist, and that is like my theme of
I
life,
know, that is so cute.
and I really am a
We're gonna
recovering
put it across
perfectionist.
the screen.
I'm really,
Yeah.
because I think that even for you, I know that you tend to be like kind of perfectionist in some
Yeah.
ways.
Oh, we're coming
I
to
think
her.
you too.
Listen, you just need
You
to-
tend to be good at having gray area.
You think so?
Oh yes, you do.
Anna's.
Oh, that's
You
a
can
good
hold
thing.
two truths at one time. So you
Robert,
without
do you want to
going.
host a podcast in sometime in your life? No, because you're doing
Yeah,
like a really
I
good
do.
job. Because you know what I just noticed? That Anna's pretty quiet and you just brought her in.
I do, yeah.
No, for real.
But I
You
you know
do,
what
you
the
do,
problem
you
is?
do.
Remember how you were saying like, picking a topic?
Yeah.
I'm not good at like of like thinking of a topic. Now I can talk and like
But
engage.
today's topic is all compliments of Anna.
I
though.
know, I
Yeah,
know,
like,
I
for
know,
real.
like-
No, it is. It's all compliments of you.
I know.
Because we're going to Anna next. Because you literally just seamlessly brought her in.
You're doing the same thing. You're helping figure out the topics and be like, okay, speaking of which, let's
Yeah,
talk about
speaking of
that.
which, I'm good.
So you're
I'm
really
doing good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, people, this is like my second. I think it's my third guest
This is-
episode.
yeah.
Well, the other
No,
one hasn't.
you're doing
we haven't-
amazing.
So this is like my third guest episode.
Hannah's one of
So
her
we're doing good.
episodes pulled me out of a very dark
We did.
time in my life. So
Yeah.
you're doing more than just good. You're
Yeah.
doing amazing, and I'm one person. Imagine how many other people
Yeah, true.
you have given
Yeah.
information to that you've brought
I
light
got a
over.
lot of feedback. I was like, oh,
Yes,
this is good.
amazing.
But then, because Anna chose the episode, but anyway, either way, if you ever want to, I'll come on as a guest. Okay, Anna, we'll do this on
Sounds
on
good.
your
Okay, okay.
on your turf.
Noted.
Because we have a lot of, but when you brought her in, so you did that, so I'm gonna go in.
Okay.
But Anna, because Anna has
She
a lot to say on like, because I think like we're moms. I've been divorced.
I've been divorced
yes,
too.
and Before it was like, oh, the D word, divorce. Because if you don't need to be there, you don't need to be there. Like for real, and it's not shade to the other person because oh God, we could do an episode on that too.
Yes.
Anna's single, hasn't had a kid yet, and then she lives her best life. When I tell you, when I see Anna's Instagram post, I'm like, what the hell? And I like it, and I scroll, oh my God, and I like it.
Where's she off to next? But
yes, because
of course, but we also have to be like, I guess the other part of that is though that like, I'm sure that for you, that's like, yes, you travel and all those things, but there's also, I'm sure, parts of you that are like, oh, I wish that I did have kids, or I wish that I did have.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I think I've been exploring that and just seeing that, but I think either way, like if you choose to have kids and have a husband, or if that happens to you, you're blessed with that, or if it doesn't happen to you, and I think ultimately you have to be happy with whatever God has for you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I'm at, like I'm at crossroads right now, but at the same time I'm like, this is the season that I'm in, and I don't want to like, because I think anything that you look back, because I've done it, all of us do that. You look back in the past and like, I should have done that, I should have done this. Like, there's a lot of regret, but you can't live like that. And like looking at the future, like, what if this doesn't happen? And then you're like living in the future, and it gives you anxiety. And I've learned to just accept, and I'm like, I'm in this season in my life. I'm gonna live my best life and do the best I can. And at the end of the day, I'm like, whatever God has for me, if it's kids or no kids.
gray area.
Then
she's really
I
in a
have
gray
to
area.
be happy, and I have to be content, because I don't think being single and like I think there has its pros, and like, or
It does.
I mean, I hope to meet somebody and one day, and like, but at the same time I'm like, I want to be in a healthy relationship, and I think
Please, God.
meeting anybody, like, or having kids, you can do that right away.
Yeah.
You can find somebody.
Yes, that's
Which
easy.
is kind of when you force something that is not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then sometimes you do end up with I have regret. I'll sometimes sit with the regrets of like, well, now I feel bad because now I have children and they live in a divorced home, and like.
Yeah.
And
You know, if
sometimes
I
that's
had
why
to make
people
these
stay.
decisions,
And
yeah.
that's why people stay, because they feel like, oh, the trauma of my child going through a divorce, and then your kids get older and they're like, why did you not leave
Exactly,
sooner?
exactly.
Because
But-
they're like, we had to deal with that toxicity. We would have rather just dealt with a happy, healthy
100%.
parent in one home.
But no matter what decisions you make, whether it's like you end up in a relationship and then it doesn't, you could end up and and then it still doesn't even work out,
Yeah.
So I think that
It's just being in a healthy one,
Yeah.
And I think like figuring that out, because I think sometimes you feel like, I think a lot of women are going through this, because there was like a study that came out, I might be wrong with statistics, but by 2030, like more than 60% I think of women are going to be single. with
It's
no
close,
kids.
because I saw something similar. But also, Rahul, I feel like women are so evolved now.
Yeah.
That it's like, if
almost
you're a
fast.
man, like, and we do not, like, God forbid, I don't man bash, because there are good men out there,
Oh,
you know what I mean? This
yeah.
is not man bashing, but it's a partnership. Like, those days of, like, you coming in, first of all, my thing is, like, I'm not gonna cry because of you. We're gonna cry together. Why are you laughing?
because you're right.
I'm trying to be like on my Maya Angelou over here.
It's true.
You got me doing
You're
wind sides, becoming a comedian. No, because for real, Rahua, like, I'm not gonna cry because of what you're doing to me. We're gonna cry together because we're dealing with something, whether it's like significant life issues, God forbid, the death, sickness, blah, blah, blah. We are going to cry together. But if at night you're sleeping and I'm laying there crying because you've done stuff to me while you sleep, oh no, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We are crying together because we are both dealing with something. You know how, like, when we got older, how many things we have to deal with in life? For me to be sitting there crying because you think it's okay to do this, this, and this. I'm not doing it. Psh, we're human. If you're gonna do it so fun, let's all do it together. Then most likely, I'm not trying to be. I guess it's gonna be open. You know, or you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
You know your value enough
Yeah,
to know
and-
that you don't have to
and I want to be happy, and I love you. Like, if I love you, then let's do this together. And you're right, let it be healthy, and let me feel okay calling you out when it's not healthy so we can fix it. Don't get on the defense because, oh, here she goes nagging me again. Here you go. Like, y'all women, that's the other thing. Once men start saying, y'all women, I'm like, oh, see, now we can't do that because you're not with women, you're with me. Let's talk about what my concerns are. Listen, and you might have an issue with how I'm doing stuff too. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. and that's and it, yeah. So back to what you're saying, like it's better to like, and also it's better to like you said, wait until you get something healthy that's good if that's what you want. It's okay to not have something if you don't want anything.
Instead of bringing children into a situation that is not only toxic for you, but now it's toxic for the children.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So not to say that sometimes you like just like how you've come to the point where you've learned this. Now you know that when you have a partner, you need someone who's an actual partner. That's something that like is just a given. You're not going to tolerate anything different, and you came to that conclusion. But also
by experience,
you had the pressure of being from where you're from to be getting married young. You gotta hurry up and get married and have some kids and like
before your eggs start drying up.
Exactly. That mentality. You also come from that mentality, but maybe a little bit less so.
Yeah,
you definitely
less pressure,
did less pressure. And so we all do the best we can with what we got.
What we have at the time, and then we
time.
live and learn. So like if you
have
lived,
to be realistic about
have you
things,
learned?
like, like I mean I've never been married, but I think relationships, like marriages are not easy. You have to be realistic about it. It's about compromise, having a good dynamic. Like how do you work together? And it's like,
do you like each other?
Yeah.
Being a team.
Are you guys friends?
Yeah.
Is he kind? Not just to you, but to everybody.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I was in, how you date somebody and they're like, man, he's such a this, he's such a this. And you're like, oh, but he's not like that to me. Oh no, he's actually like that. If he's like that to everybody else, he just hasn't been like that to you. Because you're in the, what's the phase? The love bombing phase, and you're gonna get past it. Yeah. Then so like for Anna, I was asking like, how does that feel to you? Like just living your best, because I feel, obviously social media is curated content. That's what I say. It's whatever you want to put out there. But because I know you, I know you're an authentic person. I know Anna isn't going to be like in a hospital bed, like fighting for her life, but posting on social media that she's, I know she's authentic. So like, just based on that, and then because y'all are in touch more often, but how does that feel? Like for somebody who doesn't have kids, is single, may have, even if not from family, maybe society is pressuring like, okay, when you're gonna get married, when you're gonna have kids, like what advice would you give? Or how does that feel to you?
I think that not a lot of people pressure me, like my family doesn't pressure me or anything, but I think it's just also just myself pressuring myself, I think it just recently it started happening more for me, but I think also accepting where you are in the present, right? And I think learning to love yourself, not in a way that you have like such a high self-esteem that you're like think you're better than everyone.
Like cocky.
No, not in that
confident
way, but I think just being confident and being like okay with who you are. And I think learning, and I feel like I've been learning to, and I feel like I had that, but not consciously, but I've been more conscious about it, to be like, I need to be okay with my own company. Like that I don't need to seek anybody else to be okay, to have like emotional regulation, to do all of that, and I'm like, and I feel like I've been blessed with a lot of things, and I think we're in a time in society where like you don't necessarily need financial stability to be
from a
marriage or like the status of that, and I feel like that could be like a huge blessing, and I feel like that's been a blessing for me, that's allowed me like through nursing, through my career, to be able to afford things, to have my own place.
Living her best life, man.
Vacation.
When I tell you,
so
when I see Anna like traveling, I'm just like, like.
I mean, it's opened the doors for me. Like I've always wanted to see the world. I wanted to experience different
You're
cultures.
doing it. How many countries have you visited? Do you know?
27.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my lord, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been.
Is your Instagram private?
It's private and public. Most of the time it's private. Sometimes when I post some things, I'll.
Well, I would tell y'all to go enjoy the view, but if it's private, then it's.
Yeah, I like the public for now because I'm doing some art stuff too.
Oh.
So.
Ooh, I saw. Was that your art?
Yes.
Girl, because I clicked it and I thought you posted somebody's work because you linked another page, like a professional, an art page, and I was like, oh, maybe she knows the art.
No,
artist.
that's Anna the painting. Did you see that painting?
With that brain like right here. I saw it.
The braid, you mean?
No.
The brain?
Yeah, like the heart. Sorry, like the
Oh,
heart.
yeah,
that
Which one were you talking about?
I put an emoji on
Yes.
it just so that way it does like the picture's not stolen online and stuff.
So that's your emoji. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one you just posted.
The painting is like mine in the background.
What? See, that is so cool. But also, speaking of when you were like, well, being single, like, Because like for us, where's the time to paint?
It's true.
Can you paint? When?
You have time to explore your self-interest. I actually
Yeah.
recently went on a date with someone who kept asking me, so what do you like to do? And I said, what do I like to do? I raise my children, that's what I do. And I take them to the park. And it does. And he's like, but you have your own interests.
Yeah,
and I was
right.
like, I'm not in a season of my life
I don't
where
have
get
the time to have my own.
but
interests.
I really, it's hard to make peace with that because, you know, I would love to be traveling or like, you know, exploring like what, you know, there's seasons for everything.
I mean, you tried.
But I tried.
You did a little something
seasons.
that I side-eyed you too, because she went on vacation with the kids,
I
and they
did.
were like, and then the place has a nanny. You can get a nanny,
Yes.
and I was going to email her. I was like, "Girl, this
Where
is
is
so
this?
cool." I was like, "Where are you at?" So you try.
I do. I try my best, but the point is though that you know I'm not in that seat. And I will say that before I had children, I traveled a little bit, but I really didn't. I was mostly like looking like I want to date, I want to be in a relationship. I wasn't doing the self-reflection, right?
Yes.
So now when I do have the downtime, I'm typically self-reflecting, processing, getting to know myself better. So I don't really even
And
know
like
what my
loving
self-interests
yourself,
are.
right?
Yeah,
You know,
loving
'cause
myself.
me, I love my own company now, and it took me a while to get to that. But when like you know how so married, divorced, single, then single. Honestly, because I went from like my parents' house to like marriage, so I didn't really have time to figure out me, and I had to like and culturally too. Some marriages, you know, you kind of just. You have to
take
figure out the
on-
other person too. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of have to. You don't have
it becomes your identity.
Yes.
And it's like across cultures. Like I mean, at least from dating people, like what I've learned is like a lot of people don't know how to be by themselves. You know, and it's like they'll jump from relationship to relationship, and they never really get to know how they feel.
Imagine being single and saying, "I just want to be single." That's hard to see.
And to be regulated in that
Yeah.
time, because it's one thing to be alone and be feeling like, oh, like I just want someone, versus being single and being like, okay, I'm feeling lonely, but I need to self-regulate because then you end up in a relationship and you're always looking for the other person to regulate you. You know.
Do you feel that you have that now?
Like right now, in the last 8 months, I feel like I've had that. Right? I think it's been like I haven't been dating or anything in the last few months, and it's been like, and I'm just comfortable. Like I'm like, you know, whatever God has for me, like it's gonna come at the right time. The right person's gonna come. Like I don't need to go out of my way. Of course, you have to make yourself available, but I don't think, you know, like you have to force it. It's not about going on multiple dates. It's more like I think quality over quantity, you know, and then just being like, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you need? Like, who are you? What is a good dynamic for you? And I think also a lot of women are going through. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are in the same age range that I am, and they're like 30s, late 30s and stuff. That you know, you're like trying to figure out like, are kids an option for me? Are they not? And it's just like. Going through all of that can be a lot. It can be difficult, and it can push you to be like, "Oh, I need to make this happen," right?
With whoever.
And I feel like I was a little bit like that for like a year ago and stuff. But then at the end, I was just like, "You can't force this, right?" And like, you know, going to therapy and like, you know, analyzing yourself and just like figuring things out.
If you find the right therapist.
Yeah. It's just like trying to figure out like. They're like, you know, this area of your life shouldn't be hard. She was telling me like, you're an immigrant. Like everything that's been worth it for you has required a lot of work. And he's like, sometimes you think like in this area is gonna be worth it if it requires a lot of work. But in this area, when it comes to relationships, you don't have to put a ton of work. Like it should flow. So you relate that like hardworking, like it takes a lot of work, it's gonna be worth it. But relationships are not like that. You can't force it. So you think if it's not costing you so much, then it's not worth it. But no, she's like,
and the healthy ones come easy to the point you're like, what the heck is something's up?
Yeah,
it's like you're waiting for the other foot to drop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just
because
putting
you used to talk,
you know,
you
like
know,
learning
you
to
dealt
put
with
your
toxic.
foot down and putting boundaries and learning all of that. And I think, you know, because sometimes you assume that people are like the way that you are, you know, and you come to find out that it's not like that, you know, and just also value yourself and who you open up to, who you allow into your life, and somebody that's gonna like add on to your life instead of subtracting it or making it harder for you, or like bringing out the worst in you, you know, like you have to learn how to say no to certain situations, and I feel like I've learned that, but it's been through like, you know, experience or just seeing other people go through it, advice, and I think the nicest thing that I feel like I gained and has helped me in the last few years has been to surround myself by women that I admire, women that like help me grow, and just like seeking like people that have like don't have that traditional lifestyle. Like I have friends that that have chosen not to have kids, but they still have like a very fulfilling life. To see a woman that's like secure in that we're not because we're women we all need to have kids, right? But I think it is a blessing to have children, and I think if that's where you've been given, I think you also have to figure out why is it that you want kids, right? Like, and I feel like I've been blessed with the opportunity to ask myself those questions, right? And to be like, do you want to fill the void with having children, or is it something that you really desire, or is it something that is meant for you, or you're just trying to like fill a void?
Yeah, because if it's filling a void, then
Yeah.
you become angry at your kids when they
Yeah.
decide to have their own lives or establish boundaries with you because
Yeah.
you made them your whole life, as in I brought you here to make
Yeah.
you
Satisfy
happy.
me.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's been like I've been using this time at least to just heal in those areas, so that way you're healed enough to be a good person if that opportunity comes in your life.
It sounds healthy.
So until then,
It's actually harder to do that than it is to
Yeah.
just
Yeah, you know what I mean? The
fall
thing that
into
seems
something.
easier is actually where the work is.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? It's easy. Shoot, let's go this way, right? You're a nurse practitioner. You're financially stable. I'm assuming we're all financially stable. Financially stable. You've come. You're beautiful. We're all. And I'm going with y'all because y'all are the guests. But like I'm saying,
You're beautiful
financially
too.
stable,
Gorgeous.
beautiful. So literally, you can pick up any dude off the street, a good-looking dude too. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who has like the physical criteria of like he a jerk or not? But I'm saying you can pick anybody who's gonna be like, literally, you wanna have a baby with me? Oh yeah, So that's easy. But imagine being like, no, what are you bring? Like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is this? What are you bringing? Like, that's where the work is. The part that you could get anybody if it's about like, oh, I'm married, because before it's like, oh, it was like such a thing, like, oh, you're getting married, you're married, oh, like I'm married, like if my marriage falls apart, what are people gonna say? Like,
It's
no.
a status symbol.
Yeah,
It's
like
just
that's
like you were
not that's
saying,
not where
it's
the
a
work
status
is. The
symbol.
work is like literally the work will be in finding something solid or maintaining something solid. It's not in
Yeah.
doing the whole
But
wedding.
this is also very new age, right? Because the generations before us. I mean,
It was like-
I mean,
that was
if you
it.
asked us this question like 10 years ago,
True.
we would say
True.
a different answer.
Completely.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think
Remember when I told you I was with somebody, right? And then Anna was like, "Well, why are you with this somebody?" I was just like, "No." She asked me, it was somebody is the name, okay? So I was with somebody, and then Anna was like, "Why are you with this person, or why do you want to be with this person?" And I was like, "What did I tell you?" I told her it was because the person was there for me. Because she asked, "Do you love the person?" And I was like, I didn't even say I love the person, and I supposedly told her that I was with the person because the person was there for me at a hard time in my life. That was it. Like, who the heck makes who the heck, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you
now,
know who makes that kind of decision is someone who's not. We didn't have the life experience yet.
I know.
We were just so that
It
there's
was like, oh,
benefit.
that's enough for me to be with them.
It's
like,
like-
as amazing as I am, can you imagine it?
It's like what is it called? Our anatomies haven't caught up with like the psychology and like the what I mean?
Our brain
Like-
was still developing or whatever.
Yeah, or like no, what I'm saying is like even like our brain. So women's, first of all, I feel like women's emotionally we are like we are we kind of are growing at a faster rate than men, right? And so maybe that's not true across the board, but in general,
You mean
we're finding
emotionally, yeah.
emotionally, and then also like economically, like we are. I think women are
True.
graduating at higher levels than men.
Yeah.
So like even financially, but then the part that betrays us is our physical bodies, right? Because like we can do all these things, but then we also have this pressure of like, well, we have to procreate. Like if we want to procreate, then where is the space to like? It hasn't caught up yet. Our bodies haven't caught
Yeah.
up with like the evolution of our minds
Oh, I
and
get what you're
education
saying.
and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're evolving because we have to. It's not because,
Yeah.
it started, now I think, it maybe might get to the point where we want to, it's because we want to, but because of so many pressures from society and like restrictions that women are like, oh no, and like in your situation, we're talking about like a situation where I guess somebody you admire was telling you, you need to make sure you have your career, you have to make sure you have your this, like, right? But the person was telling you because then you don't have to deal with stuff they might have dealt with
Right.
or had to deal with. So it's like, make yourself equipped to the point where, but I think now in hindsight, I think the person was actually letting you know that if you want to do that, do it, but at least you have a choice of, actually I don't want to, so now you have a choice because you're educated, you have your thing going, but if you also want to be like, okay, you find an amazing, I don't know, like a boo who is like, oh, and you decide, actually I just want to be home with my kids. Like if you have kids and you're like, actually don't want to work, I just want to be home, you have that choice. God forbid, nobody hopes you get divorced or whatever, but if it doesn't work, then you have the choice to be like, then you have a job or something to fall back on, let me take care of my kids in the you know what I mean? So now it's like more choices because of what, if you didn't have a choice, then you kind of have to just be home.
Or even for me to divorce.
Right.
I mean, a lot of women wouldn't be able to walk away from a situation because financially, like, what am I going to do? I have 2 young children who are in daycare, and like, this is expensive, and like, but I could.
Because of your career, you wouldn't be able to. Like,
literally, you would have to hang in there because, like, I need this person's income.
I can't.
But speaking of divorce, how is it for you? Like, what do you have to give us? Like, just what do you have to give any woman?
Well, I'm not going to glamorize divorce because it's actually very.
It sucks.
It's horrible.
You know what? Like literally. Oh, I have an episode like coming up, and maybe I'll just scrap that episode and we'll just use this because I was talking about how like before it's like why you shouldn't get divorced. No, not why you shouldn't. Why somebody wouldn't. Do you know how much things you lose? You lose like family, and I'll talk about that. So it's not glamorized at all.
Yes.
So my point is, if a woman does it, it's because they have to.
They have to.
A woman or a man, because there's some women out there who are not being good to their partners too. But this is the Everyday Woman podcast.
Yes,
so if you want to talk about it, go start the Everyday Man podcast. I actually just gave you a podcast name. That's the name of your podcast. Thank me later. But I'm saying because this is the Everyday Woman podcast. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Some men will be like, oh my gosh, there's some bad.
And it's true.
Then start your own podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But so it's not glamorized. But I'm saying. It's not, but it happens, right?
It happens.
And when it happens, I'm sure it should only be happening because it has to.
Absolutely
necessary. I would never wish that on anybody.
No. No, and I think people say like, oh, but people are so quick to like walk away from relationships and stuff.
Go behind the scenes.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't agree
know what's
with
happening
that.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know that for me, it was years before I came to that choice. It was years of thought and consideration and
trying to make it work.
And after therapy and like let me pray, let me be a biblical wife and shrink myself, like be obedient
and minimize who I am as a person.
Anything.
And talk less, because my voice is so annoying to them. Because like I'm nagging, which you're not. You're not.
No, I mean I was working full time. I was taking care of the bills, like taking care of all the finances. Not to say that he didn't contribute, but I'm saying I took care of the finances, meaning like I'm the one who
handled it. You were the financial person.
Exactly.
In most places, you have the one who's good with money and the one
which is fine. And
so.
Actually, that part wasn't like the part that was like it was there was too much on me. There was an uneven.
It wasn't a partnership.
It wasn't a partnership.
Because
I was taking care of the kids. I was taking care of the children by myself. Like there was very minimal activity, and when there was, it was like. The partner didn't really feel like that was their job. Like you're the woman, you do that. You're the woman, you do this.
Okay,
what kind of woman doesn't, whatever. And it's like, well, I'm actually like working full time and like, taking care of the children.
But you're
and
the
like,
woman.
But I'm the woman. And it was like, but I don't see where there's any, this is actually not healthy. I don't want my children to think this is normal. I know this is not normal. So let's see if there's a way that we can like, come to a more of a middle ground. Yeah, and come to a better understanding of each other. One of the most important things in relationships is to have the ability to grow. So if someone has the ability to, look within and be like, you know what, maybe I could improve this way, and it doesn't have to come right away. It might take like work and discussion and that's okay. That's
instead of being defensive.
Instead of being defensive or making you feel like you're the one that's wrong, or like, why do you want me to? This is who I am.
Oh,
and it's
yes.
like, wait a second.
Growth. Like, what's wrong with growth? You would want somebody to grow, but you also, how y'all were like, man, Hannah, you're still the same. Yes, but I'm not.
But
you're
still
not the same. Right.
Yeah, and I'm not still the same,
exactly.
And she's not still the same. There's been lots of growth. But having that potential to grow means that like you can have, then the relationship can flourish.
So we're not glamorizing divorce at all. We're not glamorizing anything that's a traumatizing experience. Because that's a trauma.
That's a very common thing.
Yes, but it's the real. That's the thing.
For me, it's not. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I am the only person that I know that is divorced. The only person. I know nobody. Well, I know one other person who's divorced. She didn't have any children though.
Yeah.
And that's kind of different.
But also what
But
like
this is
the other
maybe in your community?
in our community.
but the person who's divorced, and I don't know who it is, but the person who's divorced, like I
it was
bet-
the same situation where there was no potential for growth in their partner.
Okay.
Their partner had no capacity or desire to change.
But I'm saying like I'm not saying you should like be like, oh my gosh, I'm divorced. But I'm saying like the stigma,
Yeah.
I bet not people are not willing to even say they're divorced. Do you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like
There's definitely stigma
yeah,
involved.
so much stigma, and that's what the problem is. I think it's like people go through traumatizing life experiences that other people go through, even if it's not like in your culture, but like Anna said, it's common because like I guess in America or even like now even in Sierra Leone, like people supposedly it's so much different. But then they'll say stuff like, "Oh, y'all women are now Americanized." Because in our cultures, they relate like something like divorce, like a woman owning her power
Yes.
and saying this is not
Or
working.
sticking through
They-
abuse.
they
Have
were-
you guys heard about Passport Bro?
Who's that?
Passport bros? Yeah. I have.
Oh my gosh, girl! I just
And then
figured out
because
that trend a few days
yeah,
ago,
me too. I just said on
and I went on the
TikTok.
hashtag and I was like, "What the hell?"
And it's like men that are going to other countries to look
Like
for
third
women
world,
that are
like developing
Under-
countries,
yeah, yeah.
developing countries.
Yes.
to find women that are more submissive. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, just they got something coming for them.
because American women.
Yeah, because
are
once they
not.
get
Because they're
here,
gonna come here
they're gonna
and
get it too. They're gonna be like, wait a second,
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
know
to
this
be
is
treated
not how
this
this
way.
works. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because, see, but that's not even healthy.
It's a very
because-
unhealthy dynamic
Yeah,
that
like
people
why
are
would
looking
you
for.
want somebody worship?
But
Like if you
also-
love somebody, why do you want to be the only benefit?
But
You
if-
want to just be the one benefiting. From
But
the
if you grew
relationship.
up in situations where that was normalized
Yeah.
behavior,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think
then
so.
that's what we're all, either you're a cycle breaker or you just continue cycles,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And not everybody's meant to be a cycle breaker.
Yeah.
So-
And that's why we're having this conversation, because again, with us, we feel like, oh my gosh, we've come such a far way, right? But without pinpointing anybody specifically in our lives or people we're around, but there are people who we see where you say like, they're, divorced, literally you don't even know anybody, but I also know that you see marriages where you're like, oh, this is not what I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there people will hang in there because it's like, I
The
might
stigma.
as well just stay,
The
you know?
stigma. You
Yeah.
lose your social status.
Yeah. You lose
There's
a lot, though,
of
you know?
stigma that comes
Yeah.
along with it.
Yeah.
A lot of stigma, and I think so many people don't actually even, like you said, like there are people that are divorced that don't talk about it or
Yeah.
embarrassed about
Yeah.
it, and like I tend to not be embarrassed
Yeah.
about it because
It's
I
not
know that
embarrassing, 'cause
I did what
you
I
did
had
what
to
you
do,
could
and actually it's very brave because I decided that, you know what,
It's brave.
I'm not going to continue this.
brave.
This is not healthy. I don't want my children
It was
to be
like me
exposed to
leaving
this.
the unit.
Yes, see,
Exactly.
no, and you see, yeah, but it is
Exactly.
great. But like somebody even like me thought like, oh, here goes Anna,
Yeah.
not trying to like
True.
hang in the trenches with us,
Yeah.
and but then now like 10 years later, I'm like, man, Anna was so ahead of her time.
Yes.
Okay, now this is good. We're about to wrap up. So at the end of each episode, just because we are a woman, the Everyday Woman podcast, everyday women living extraordinary lives, because that's what I think. So Rahma, just like any woman, whether it's a young woman, whether it's a woman who's going through or gone through things that you've gone through in life, or just, if somebody walked up to you on the street, like, man, you just have this thing about you, because I feel like we do. What advice would you give to any woman? Maybe Anna or me, like what piece of advice would you
You
give
know
to
what my
a woman?
therapist asked me to do, which I think would be a great way to look at it.
Okay.
It's like if you had to write yourself a letter and you pretend you were like somebody that loves you, like you're a really good friend or your best friend, what would you say to them?
I would say to learn how to be your authentic self, that we lose so much of who we are because of who we're supposed to be.
Oh.
And so I would say to always work towards finding out who you are, listening to your inner voice, and discovering who you are, because there's a lot of liberation in that,
Yeah.
because you're living your truth. So I would say live your truth, whatever that truth may be, and continue to grow.
Yeah. I think for me it would be, I would tell myself two things, and I think if it was a friend, I would tell them like, I think you have to live the present, stop thinking about the future, like stressing about the future, or like what you could have done different.
Yeah.
I think you have to, like, everything that happened in your life is meant to happen, and
Yeah.
like you can either use it to make you bitter or to make you better.
Yeah.
And I think you have to use it to make you better.
Yeah.
And like every single situation, and I think also just learning to be kind to yourself, because I think sometimes when my therapist was telling me like write yourself this letter, it was like from a person that loves you, what would they say to you?
Yeah.
Like if like let's say your friend was going through what you were going through or whatever stage you are in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I should be doing this, I should have done that. You're so hard on yourself, and I think you have to learn to be kind to yourself the same way that you're kind to other people. You're kind to your friends.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Learn to be kind to yourself
Yeah.
and to just be okay with
Yeah.
where you are at. Like, you know, like if you made a mistake,
Give yourself grace.
yeah, give yourself grace.
Treat yourself like somebody you loved.
Yeah,
Ooh,
exactly.
You know,
It's
treat yourself
huge.
like you would treat somebody you love. Because even with your
Yeah.
kids and stuff, right?
Yes,
You're
yeah.
right.
Speak to
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
the way as
Because
you
you
would
love,
someone
if you love
That's
yourself,
huge.
if your kid was going through something, what advice would you give them? How would you want them to handle
That's
it?
major.
You're right.
That's
And I
major.
think as women we struggle so much, you
Yeah.
know, and I think I was telling her about a podcast that I said is called Wiser Than Me and stuff, and I think, you know, we're in our late 30s, all of us, and you're just reaching that stage where you're like,
Wiser
oh,
Than Me?
Yeah.
I need to check it out
It's
too.
really good, and they interviewed this author, and it's like Isabel Allende, right? They interviewed her, and she wrote her first book, House of Spirits, when she was 40, and then she became famous. So sometimes I think when you're in your late 30s, you're like, oh, most of my life is gone. No, you know, like we live for longer now.
I know.
And then another person in that, I forgot which actress it was, but they interviewed her too. And she says, you know, life is in like 3 different stages. Like, you know, like the first stage is from like 1 to 40, and then from 40 to 65. He's like, what are you gonna do with your second stage? And I think the beauty of like growing older is that you just know a lot more things. You're wiser,
Yeah.
and like you learn to accept who you are. And I feel like working towards that, you know, I think a lot of our 20s are beautiful. You have your youth, you know, but then there's a lot of insecurities too.
Yeah.
And I think just learning who you are as a person, valuing yourself, being kind to yourself, and like giving yourself that grace, and just being like, this is just the second stage of my life I'm gonna go into, and I want to be like the best version of who I am. And I think, you know, and just like lifting other women up. And I think any time that you can be a stepping stone for anybody, that's what you should do. And I think even just being in this podcast, right? Like somebody's gonna listen to it, even if it's just one person, you know, and then they're gonna get.
You're
something
doing
out of it.
important
But
work.
that's really what the goal is.
Yeah.
I was like, imagine, Marwa, even if you could help one person, just
Yeah.
in life, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like when we go, the only thing you have left behind is what people think or say, the memories you left.
Yes.
The encounters, the people you encountered.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
People
your
you lifted
children.
up.
Yeah, your children are gonna have stories to tell. But even that,
Yeah.
because when we're doing this or like talking about healthy, like fixing, you know, things that might have been broken from, you know, our lives or whatever, it's because we want to leave our children better. God forbid, God, please keep us all to like we're
Absolutely.
90 or whatever. But it's not, or 100, whichever, you know, but it's not, you want to leave something. You want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
Like you don't want people to be like, oh, Rahwa, that one, and they roll their eye.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like, oh, Rahwa helped me through this. Or oh,
Absolutely.
Anna was like, even in our careers. And that's where when you made that choice, I was like, oh my gosh, like now I know I'm not just working for the dollar. I want to work to like, I want to
Your
like
values.
it. I don't want to come to work and like somebody hits a call bell and have an attitude
Yeah.
because, you know, I'm like stressed out because not what they did, but then that encounter they just had with me is stigmatizing.
Yeah.
But you were like, well, what could I say? Because I normally don't give the advice. I let you, you know, give the advice. But what I also thought of is like to have like a village, to have you like as we're older, you have a choice of who you allow in your life. You have a choice of who you allow around your children. You have a choice of, because now you can build your own tribe. It doesn't have to be just family. It could be friends. It could be even coworkers, because even if you don't see them all the time, but you see them at work. So you have a choice of the people you surround yourself with, because that has a lot to do with how you present in life. Because even when you said being your authentic self, if you're surrounded by people who try to shrink you, or like if you're like being your authentic self, they have something to say, like, oh my gosh, here's you. Even if it's not conscious, your subconscious is going to be like, okay, this person's coming, don't, you know.
Yeah.
And then your kids are going to see that. Even if they don't say it, they notice that, oh, my mom's like this when, or my mom's more relaxed when she's around this person. So even if somebody is valuable enough, like maybe, okay, they're like immediate family, you can have a discussion. But if they're not willing to change, then you're like, okay, now I'm not gonna be like, we're not coming around you, but you'll just see less of me, less of my children. You see less of, you know, I'm not bringing my energy around. I'm not consciously, you know what I mean?
You
So
get,
even
you
friends.
get to build your village.
Yes, so
You
now
have
we're
that
older
choice.
and wiser. You get to you get to choose your workplace. You get to choose where you live.
There's so many resources
Yes.
now, right?
Yep.
To be able to break cycles.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes coming from places that we are your culture is really strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, oh, it's cultural.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
make it right.
and
right?
it doesn't
It's
make
just
it
like
right.
you have to
What's
learn
the
to be-
word? What's the thing you said? You said a quote about when somebody was like beating. You know how people think it's discipline.
Spare the.
Oh, it's like, oh, domestic violence.
Yeah.
I call
What
it
do you
tradition.
what do you call
Oh.
what was the word? What do you call
Domestic violence?
where you're from or something?
Or what do you call?
Yeah, that's what she said. Domestic violence is called. What do you call domestic violence where you're from or something like that?
Oh
And
yeah,
somebody
it was
said-
like a TikTok that
Yeah.
I saw that it was like, oh, what do you, they're kind of making fun of it. They're like, what do you call domestic violence? And then the kids were like, tradition.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's funny, right? But it's not funny.
It's not
Deep
funny.
inside, it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
shouldn't be
it's true,
normalized.
yeah.
But in some cultures, it is normalized. And
Yeah.
I think, we have to break those cycles.
Yeah.
And just like, even if it's like cultural, even if
Yeah.
it's something traditionally been done,
Yeah.
like, that necessarily.
Like, yeah.
That's one of the
right.
benefits of being born here, right? Like we were talking about, like, oh, it's all post-colonial, blah blah blah. But like the part of the benefit though is that we're able to break cycles because
Yes,
we're removed
easier.
from
We
a
have
situation.
because right now, like our friends or people we know or guests who or people watching who are from here, they'll look at this like, what? Yeah. It, like you know what I mean? Because for them, some of them it's not normal.
Yeah.
But then people who are from like cultures from, they're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh girl, talk about it. You
Yes,
know.
yes.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the bravest thing is to like to ask for help. That's one of the bravest things that you can do. And I think like not a lot of people realize that asking for help
It's
is
a
not,
strength.
It's a
It's not a
strength. Yeah,
weakness.
to just be like, you know why? Like we're human beings. We need other people. We need community. We need
Healthy tribes, healthy
yeah,
communities,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's just like, and people go through it, And I think it's not about like not having conflict in your life. It's about how you resolve it,
Yeah.
how you get up from it, how like a situation like I said, like you can either choose for it to make you bitter or better. And I think we all have here are choosing to be better. And I think
Quotes for days. I feel like our episode had quotes for days. I'm just saying like wisdom for
For
days.
sure, for sure.
We had song,
We did.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
There's
right?
one more that I want to add before we wrap up.
Add.
One more. Have you guys seen the Mariah Carey video where she's on stage and she's like tipsy and she takes the microphone and she goes, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got. Have you seen that? Please go look it up. And I
Like
love
a real show?
she took the microphone from someone and she was clearly like under the influence, like drunk. She's like, look, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got.
No,
And it was
I
like,
see
oh my
it.
god, it was like from her soul, but it was also
It was
so
real,
true.
yeah.
It's true. We're all doing the best we can with what we got.
Yeah. And so folks, look out for Rahul's podcast coming soon. Yes, but anyways, lean in, Anna Banana. But this was awesome. Thank you, ladies, for coming. God bless you. We are lit. We're living our best lives, I think, because at the end of the day, you look back and we're gonna be like, oh, this
Yes,
is,
this is the stage, this is the
this
season
is
we
what
were
that's
in.
what was happening.
Yes.
But I feel like we have grown so much. We're so much. Listen. We have grown so much, but we still look the same. That's what I think. Let me take my glasses off. I feel like we've grown so much, but we still look the same. But yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, Hannah.
So much. But you know what? I feel like we have a little, yeah, oh yes.
Yes.
But mine is not, my perfectionism was more like people pleasing.
Yes.
Because I grew up as like like I was my dad's little golden child who didn't ruffle feathers. My brother was the outlaw, good for him, because he's still his authentic self to this day.
Yeah.
We were talking about it the other day in the car, and my mom was like, he has been this way since he was 2 years old. So he's been himself.
Yes.
And so like he'll be just good, like man, and I'm just like, bro, why are you like this? But that is how
His
he
authentic
is.
self.
Yes.
We're now
Me,
discovering who
we
are you
Because
authentically.
me, I was like a little daddy's. First of all, that title, right? It's nice and stuff. But like everybody's like, oh, you're your daddy's favorite, your daddy's girl. So I just aim to please my dad.
To live
Because
up
my
to
mom
the
was
title.
here. Yeah. So it was like I had to be like everything had to be on point. And then I just kept. And it started seeping into other parts of my life. So from just making sure like my dad was always happy with me, because if my dad was upset with me, I was devastated. But then I didn't even take into consideration that my dad might be, nobody's always happy. So it's like, I felt like if he wasn't happy, maybe I had something to do with it. And maybe the man was dealing with bills. I don't know. But like,
how do you do that now with your children? Because I know that my daughter, when I'm not happy, she's very worried.
Yes,
that I'm not
Emmanuel
happy.
kind of started. Yes, my son started it off, and then I would let him know. I'll be like, "It's okay," because at first, like he'd be like, "Mommy, what's wrong?" Oh my gosh, he could read emotions so good. But then at first, I was like, "Oh wow, that means he can read emotions." You know, I'm like, "Oh, he's self-aware of what's going on around him, right?" That's how it started off. But then as I started healing, I was like, "Oh no, those are signs of people pleasing." Because if you feel like you have to manage other people's emotions, that's not a good thing. Because I should be able to manage my emotions. You shouldn't have to. Just because I roll my eyes doesn't mean you have to cater to it.
But it's also them being okay, because then you need the space to be able to feel your
so
emotions.
then I had to tell him, I'm like, Emmanuel, it's because he'd be like, "Mommy, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong, right?" And then at first I thought it was cute, and then later I was like, "Oh no, this is not healthy." I was like, Emmanuel, it's okay for me to be tired. It's okay for me to like not have a good day. It's okay for me to be upset. I'm like, and it's okay for you too as well. You know, so I started letting him know it's okay, because then he wasn't even a teenager then. Now he's a teenager. Please, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm like, you need to pay more attention to what's happening around you, because we've gone back to what I was. Because I kind of let him know it's okay. Like you don't. But now I'm like, my favorite word is read the room, because he's just teenagers just living their best lives. Like and I'm like, you need to read the room. Like okay, don't hold people's emotions in your hands, but also like. Just be aware of what's happening to you in general.
The gray area.
Yes,
the gray area.
You know, because black and white, we're talking about that. Because my therapist told me, you're just black and white.
I've been told the same thing.
Black and white. It's okay to have a gray area. It's either good or bad. Sometimes it's neither or. It's just what it is.